It doesn't work anymore, Gavin. The hair slicker and the vet, all that doesn't work. Every once in a while, you put on your Abercrombie and Fish work clothes and you go out by that nightmare train yard by the port of LA, or he goes to the Paradise Fire and he digs a little ash and puts it in a bucket or something. It doesn't work anymore. You're just a total failure. You destroyed the most successful, most beautiful state in the world. And the only reason it's even viable is because people unlike you, Pat Brown, who was a Democrat, but he was a good governor, Ronald Reagan, George DeMasian, Pete Wilson, they built the state. And you're living on their work and you're trying to destroy it, but they were so, I don't know, so industrious and so imaginative.
Victor Davis Hanson, the historian and political firebrand, has just unleashed a scorching takedown of Gavin Newsom's quiet climb toward the Democratic presidential ticket, and trust me, his warnings are anything but soft. While Newsom appears to be gaining traction with more Democrats suddenly cozying up to him, Hanson isn't buying the hype. His perspective is brutal, brilliant, and downright alarming. You're about to hear things that will make you rethink the entire Newsom 2028 narrative. And before we dive in, make sure you smash that subscribe button and ring the bell, because you don't want to miss another breakdown like this one.
Is part of this that voters are so fed up with what they see on the streets of their cities that as a politician, you've got to clean up those streets?
Yeah, well, that's generally the case, but that's not the inspiration for Care Court.
But is there a political factor in this for you?
As an electoral strategy, I'm turned out. That's not the issue. The politics here is compassion. The politics is purpose.
We'll get to the Victor Davis Hanson clip in a moment, but first I need to set the stage. Recently, Newsom was grilled about his shiny new Care Court scheme, supposedly designed to fix California's homeless crisis overnight. The interviewer asked a simple, fair question. Was this just a PR stunt to boost his political profile? And true to form, Newsom didn't answer directly. Instead, he dodged with poetic jargon, endless word salads, and not a single concrete solution. That's his trademark move. Thankfully, this interviewer refused to let him off the hook.
You may be termed out here, but does cleaning up the streets of California factor into a potential presidential run?
I'm never going to overpromise that in the short run. I mean, we are struggling in this state.
You're not answering my question.
Homelessness. No, housing and homelessness.
People suggest that cleaning up California streets could be part of a larger political strategy for you.
I think that's table stakes. I think that's just the foundational responsibility of anyone that gets into my position. That's the day job. It's not about some grand ambition. Absolutely not.
Is that a yes or a no?
That was a never-ending response to your question.
And credit where credit's due. Cornering Gavin Newsom is no small feat. This man, like so many top-tier Democrats, has mastered the art of talking in circles, sounding profound while saying absolutely nothing. He's perfected the performance. Flowery language, progressive buzzwords, and just enough self-righteous flair to keep the woke crowd clapping. Meanwhile, real issues, homelessness, mental health, crumbling infrastructure, get swept aside. And who's at the top of this salad bar of nonsense? Newsom himself. Enter Victor Davis Hanson with his searing takedown.
Remember, as I said earlier, no one person is more responsible for California's decline than Gavin Newsom.
When Victor Davis Hanson speaks, he doesn't pull punches. He argues that Newsom has inflicted more destruction on California than anyone could have imagined in their worst political nightmares. According to Hanson, Newsom hasn't merely mismanaged the state, he's presided over slow-motion disaster. What does California have to show after decades of his political career? Skyrocketing homelessness, spiraling crime, decaying cities and streets that resemble war zones instead of world-class communities. California, once the golden beacon of the American dream, is now hemorrhaging residents who are fleeing crushing taxes, outrageous housing costs, and suffocating regulations. Yet through it all, Newsom smiles for the cameras, boasts about progress, and climbs higher up the political ladder as if torching the fifth largest economy on earth is a resume booster. Hanson's verdict is crystal clear. If this is leadership, California is better off without it.
So he's more responsible, and he has been overseeing all the regulations that we're going to get rid of refineries, and he bullied them and bullied them and bullied them. You got to have the California Air Resources Board does this, and you have to have this blend, and you have to do that. And finally they said, you know what? We're going to go somewhere else. You keep importing oil from the Saudis, and you're going to have to, import gas from Nevada or, I don't know, Arizona, go ahead, and Texas, I don't know. But we're not going to do it anymore. And that whole Richmond corridor for Northern California, they're going to leave. And gas will go up to about $8 a gallon, and all the left-wing millionaires along the coastal corridor will be happy. But he's going to panic because they're going to look at that when he wants to run for president, and his Democratic primary rivals will bring it up. What's the price of cow? That's what Ron DeSantis did when he beat him in that debate.
Let's not forget Hollywood. Newsom didn't just chase the oil industry out of California spiking fuel prices, he also crippled the state's most iconic brand, the film industry. Yes, the governor who claims to champion innovation smothered California's movie business under mountains of bureaucracy punishing taxes and virtue signaling regulations. It's the same playbook he used against energy. Demonize it, overregulate it, then act shocked when it leaves. Today filmmakers are fleeing the state in droves, with many finding it cheaper to fly cast and crew to Europe than to shoot in Los Angeles. That's right, it's now more affordable to film across the Atlantic than in Hollywood's backyard. California's cinematic magic didn't fade naturally. It was strangled, taxed, and lectured into extinction. And who handed Hollywood the shovel? Gavin Newsom.
What's the price of gas? How many people have left California versus Florida? What's your tax rate versus ours? Here's how many people you have, and here's your budget, and here's how many people we have in our budget. And he's done all of that. And so, remember that line in Animal House where, what was that guy's name? I know everybody knows. Dean Wormer, or what? Wormer? Yeah, he says to the fat
Dean Wormer.
Going through life fat, lazy, and ugly. Or is that what he says? Fat, ugly, and lazy is nowhere to go through life. I feel like somebody should say being incoherent, incompetent, and I don't know what else, corrupt, is no way to go through being a governor, Gavin.
Victor Davis Hanson continues the verbal evisceration. He points to the billions of taxpayer dollars poured into Newsom's pet projects with little to no results. The most glaring example: California's high-speed rail. Nearly $13 billion spent, and yet no completed stations, no operational route, and barely any track laid. Originally pitched at $33 billion with a 2020 completion date, the project now sits bloated between $106, $128 billion, crawling toward a vague 2030s finish line. All they've managed is a half-built 171-mile Central Valley stretch. Hanson's point couldn't be sharper. You can't brag about historic investments when your flagship project is literally a train to nowhere. If Newsom can't manage a railroad, how on earth could he manage the United States?
Everything you've done, from high-speed rail to the tax rate at 13.3 to gasoline tax that you're now increasing, it's going to be it is the highest in the nation, to 40 cents a kilowatt, to Stonehenge high-speed rail, we drove home today from Menlo Park on the 152 from Gilroy to Casa de Fruta. Hasn't changed in 60 years, 70 years. I remember going 3 or 4 years.
Envy of America is now a cautionary tale of failed leadership. And under Newsom's watch, the state has endured some of its worst wildfires thanks to neglected fire prevention and mismanaged water resources. Add to that activist chaos like the anti-ICE protests spiraling into national emergencies. For Hanson, the message is simple. Chaos isn't an exception under Newsom, it's the norm.
I remember going 3 or 4 years old, and that's your legacy. And the LA fire, the Aspen fire, the Paradise fire, all of that, you took paradise and you made it into purgatory. That's what you did. And then you, every once in a while, went to Napa wine tasting while people were trying to get a permit in LA, and you went to the French Laundry while you shut down everybody else.
And this is exactly why so many Americans believe Gavin Newsom would make a disastrous president. Unlike King Midas, who turned everything to gold, everything Newsom touches seems to rot. From collapsing infrastructure to raging wildfires, his record speaks volumes. And now, in a painfully obvious PR stunt, he's launched his own podcast. Yes, you heard that right. A podcast. He claims it's meant to foster bipartisan dialogue and give every voice a platform. But let's be honest, no one's buying it. Voters see straight through the vanity project. It's a marketing ploy, plain and simple, designed to polish his image for a potential 2028 White House run. If this is his presidential audition, it's not working.
You can't help but you're living in a $9 million house. Your wife has government contracts. You were a Nepo baby that got everything from the Getty family. And now you're kind of a character. He does that little neck thing. What is that? He goes back and forth with his neck. It doesn't work anymore, Gavin. The hair slicker and the vat, all that doesn't work. Every once in a while, you put on your Abercrombie and Fish work clothes and you go out by that nightmare train yard by the port of LA. Remember where they loot everything and then he picks up with his little gloves.
And then comes the burn that stings the most. Victor Davis Hanson reminds us that Newsom isn't some political prodigy. He's the ultimate Nepo baby propped up by his lifelong ties to the ultra-powerful Getty family. His father was close to Gordon Getty, and young Gavin practically grew up in the family's golden circle. That's not a bootstrap story. That's a silver platter launch pad. No wonder he's climbed so fast even as California sinks under his leadership. Strip away the Getty money and Newsom's career collapses like a house of cards.
Goes to the Paradise Fire and he digs a little ash and puts it in a bucket or something. It doesn't work anymore. You're just a total failure. You destroyed the most successful, most beautiful state in the world. And the only reason it's even viable is because people unlike you, Pat Brown, who was a Democrat, but he was a good governor, Ronald Reagan, George Dick-Mason, Pete Wilson, they built the state. And you're living on their work and you're trying to destroy it, but they were so, so industrious and so imaginative.
By every measurable standard, Gavin Newsom has been a failure as governor. Yet instead of exiting quietly, he's aiming for the presidency. To Democrats, here's some hard but necessary advice. If you nominate this man in 2028, you are handing the election to Republicans on a silver platter. His record is a political liability, skyrocketing homelessness unchecked, crime raging, wildfires, a mass exodus of residents, and billions wasted on vanity projects. Electing him would be the GOP's dream. Victor Davis Hanson's warning is clear. Newsom isn't just unfit for higher office, putting him at the helm would be political suicide. And with that, we wrap up today's breakdown. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more hard-hitting analysis, smash that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next scorcher.